Hi everyone, it's Roger and Jeremy here from the What's On at Disney Plus podcast. In this episode, we're going to be talking about The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad, which was a collection of two kind of shorts that got put together way back in, was it 1949? And this, with the Halloween spirit, we kind of wanted to jump in and kind of have a look at this one. Now, this was again one of those like classic movies I've heard a lot about. I've even got some collectibles. I've got like some, Mr. Toad and even a Sleepy Hollow figure, but I don't think I've actually seen this one. What about you, Jeremy?
I watched it last year for the first time ever, and then I watched it again now, and it's different. I don't care about the Mr. Toad's part at all. I was kind of bored through it, but my only experience with Mr. Toad was through Mr. Toad's Wild Ride at Disney.
Yeah.
But I know it's based off of I believe a British fairy tale.
Well, this is it. See, I came into it from a different point of view because I used to grow up on. We used to have an animated series called The Wind in the Willows, and that had Mr. Toad and Mr. Badger and all the rest of it. So I kind of was going in, and I've not seen that probably in about 30 plus years. So I went in going, oh, it's not where's Ratty and Mr. Mo, because I was used to the characters from Wind in the Willows, from what I, and it was a little bit like, oh, they've really kind of just purely focused in on Mr. Toad, and it just was a really random short. I mean, it just didn't seem. It was such a strange one. I mean, just running around, just kind of creating all kinds of havoc, but not really having enough money for it. But for me, it was just that kind of weird thing of like it didn't connect up with my knowledge of and my history of growing up with Mr. Toad. I know, like we were out in Disneyland Paris a few years ago, and we ate at Mr. Toad's Hall. I mean, it's really bad food, but we ate in there. And I do remember there being a Mr. Toad's ride at some point. I think when we were kids at Walt Disney World. But it is that kind of weird thing of like watching it back now, going, Wind in the Willows is a bit of a weird one for me because it was just like, yeah, I'm used to just being told by a completely different thing, and it's amazing how that can have an impact on your connection with this.
Yeah, I was thinking back to the ride, and I was like, so when do we go to hell? But that they don't do that there, so that was a bit different. And of course, the Ichabod part is based off of the Legend of Sleepy Hollow, which is an American story. I know that one very well. It's read every October in schools around here. I think it's based out of Sleepy Hollow, New York, which is not overly far from where I live.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot to it. So I enjoy that version, that part of it more than I do the Mr. Toad part. It may be because I'm American. It may be just because I'm so used to Ichabod.
Yeah, flip for me. It was exactly what it was like. It's funny because the Sleepy Hollow bit, I mean, I've seen like the Johnny Depp movie and some reference to it in some other ones. But for me, that was such a slow, like, rev up to that whole bit where, we basically see the horse and see the, and all that. I was like, oh, where the first 3/4 of it didn't seem to have any connection to anything. And it was just, it just felt, it was only just over an hour and 9 minutes long, but it was a slug getting through these two.
Yeah. Like I said, from the package films, they're weird. They're different.
Yeah.
And like I said, they don't really. Three Caballeros, when we reviewed that, I told you, I think that one's my favorite. I don't think they get better than that. This one's probably the second best one.
The thing is, there just don't seem to be any. There doesn't seem to be a lot of connection between the two either. They're so random. Like they're not, it's not like one's Halloween and one isn't. And I do find the whole thing with The Adventures of Ichabod. I again didn't. I think if it was called Sleepy Hollow, I probably would have been a little bit more connected with it. But it is funny because I did think when I saw the Headless Horseman, I did go back to Walt Disney World when I went to the Halloween nights, and they would have the Headless Horseman running down Main Street, and it is funny how all these like little connections to these little these shorts from the 40s still have an impact right now. You're looking at you might not know where they've come from, but they were generated from this short from all those years ago, and it is just quite a strange little thing. I mean, looking here at the details, it was actually shown also on Disneyland television and later marketed it on home video. I think they were so separately, so I think might be why maybe I hadn't have connected them. Maybe here in the UK they were so like in the video shop that I used to go to as a kid, they might have been on different videos, and that's why I didn't connect the two.
Maybe
Yeah.
I remember like my actual introduction to even the two of them being together was from a BuzzFeed quiz where you're supposed to name Disney movies, and I'm like, what are all of these from the 40s that I'd never heard of at the time? And then when the answer pops up, I'm like, Ichabod and Mr. Toad, what's that? And then so last year when it popped up in the Halloween collection, I was like, let me check it out. And yeah, I've seen it 3 times now because I watched it with my son, and I've had the same reaction all 3 times. Is that it's not bad by any stretch of imagination. It's just it's an odd collection to put together, and the Toad does little for me, whereas the story of Ichabod, I know what I'm getting into.
Yeah, it is funny. I think, like I said, like obviously with us being, like I said, it is kind of funny how we have the exact opposite reactions to because of what we grew up on. It's interesting here looking at it. Like Bing Crosby did the voiceover for The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, which I wasn't too sure. But I must have, when it all started up and it's saying like the RKO, which is a very different term now for another someone else.
Now it's a knockoff Diamond Cutter.
Yeah, this is kind of a weird thing of just like, oh wow. And obviously in the 40s, they went through that whole stage of having, and this is just kind of the reclaiming of like making movies and doing stuff. I mean, to me, it was a lot better than those other kind of collections. He was kind of getting back on track, but it just show you how much has changed since with these releases of, you look at how, like, for example, like recently with the pandemic, of how Disney had to change what they were doing. And, in World War II, they kind of had to do the same thing. And this is years after it of still having that impact of not, because obviously development on animated movies takes a long time. They couldn't get this one knocked out, I would imagine, fast enough to do a full version. Because I'm just looking here, because Disney would not do another package film until 1977. Yes, it was the last of the package ones of that whole era of the 40s, which they did with the Amigos, Free Caballeros, Make My Music, Fun and Fancy Free, and Melody Time, which I think probably for most people are that era of Disney that we just do not put together. We skip over. Disney. Yeah. But this is a nice thing with Disney Plus, is that you have that option to go back and kind of check out. And I do feel like, like you said, those tests come up on Facebook or BuzzFeed of go, what movies, and there was for me, it was this era. This was the 40s era, and also like the 99 of Atlantis and Treasure Island. Luckily, I've been filling in at both ends. I feel like I'm at a good point. But yeah, I enjoyed watching it in terms of the history point of view, but I did find it a little bit sluggish. I mean, I did definitely prefer the Mr. Toad story. He is just a cool character, but I was like, where's all the characters? Where's Ratty? Where's Molly? It's just like such a weird.
Yeah, they kind of take small focus in there because there's more characters in this Legend of Sleepy Hollow as well. But it's it's so different. And I watched that show on Fox a few years ago, so I'm like, are they biblical witnesses now? Because it get all different because of that.
Yeah, and that Sleepy Hollow is actually on Disney Plus here in the UK as well. It's because obviously it's a 20th century. I haven't got around to watching that one myself, but it's
one of the best first seasons ever.
Yeah, it's definitely on my to-do list. But yeah, this was definitely one, because this is one that you picked out that you wanted us to look at, and yeah, it was certainly I'm glad I watched it. I don't think I'm ever going to go back and watch it again. I think that might be done on that one. But we'd love to know what you think of the Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad. Did you like it? Have you seen it before? And just generally like to hear your thoughts on it. And on that note, thank you again very much for your support. You can become a Patreon and a YouTube channel member where you get early access to these episodes as a perk of being one. And also you get to vote on what we watch next. On that now, guys, so thank you very much for watching. See you guys soon.
Later.
I'd like to thank all of our Patreon and YouTube channel members for their support. You can become a member from as little as $2 a month, and you get access to our weekly Q&A and much more.